Yes, here we go. It is Tuesday night. It is the Bhoycie brothers are back live. Will it be Tuesday every week? Absolutely fucking not. We've no idea how often we'll be able to be live. But you know what? That's just the magic of the bus. It's what we do. But Jonathan, it's great to have you as a regular fixture back on the channel for this season. How are you?
I'm
You
doing
good?
good. Not too bad. I'm not too bad, thank you. Not too
Right.
bad at all.
I'm going to do the all that good stuff, and then we'll see what he's got lined up this week, ladies and gents. He's probably racking his brains to now. This guy, I get called unprofessional. This guy's got an opening gambit that people wait all week for, and I'm positive he makes it up on the spot, which is actually kind of impressive as well, I suppose.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
do all
I'm
that
letting
good
you get
stuff.
all your good stuff out of the way though. Get the advertisements all done.
That's right. That's right. And I do think there might be a bit of a delay between me and Jonathan, which is amazing in 2025 that, just going on a simple thing called StreamYard, both of us with fiber, broadband in the house, all that nonsense. But in 1969, they spoke to the man in the moon via landline. I'll never forget that. When I'm going to start saying that, in fact, when I phone my internet provider unhappy with my signal. Anyway, all that good stuff means give us a like, give us a share, buy some hair. Remember, piesports.com, tasty pastry treat, 12.5% off when you use the code BUS1888. Of course, make sure if you've not already subscribed, you hit the subscribe button. Only if you enjoy it, of course. Give us a like, give us a dislike. That helps the algorithm. And if you are subscribed, hit the bell, because like I always am trying to allude to here, the shows might be more sporadic or more, not even sporadic sounds like flimsy amount. There'll still be a good volume of shows, but it's just when they'll be. I don't even know. So hit the bell and it means you never miss a bus. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member and keep the show on the road, it's entirely up to you. The content will always be free. There is an option. It's $1.99 a month, but like I say, the content remains free. It's that time.
Well, Russell, we are now approaching the start of another football season, and the artilleries have been called in as we prepare for another war with the west side of Glasgow. We are looking at a season where Celtic are potentially going in under-equipped, with Pistol Pete, Peter Lawwell not doing a very fine job on the recruitment front. We have essentially sent Brendan into battle with a water pistol this season, with the lack of signings that have occurred at Celtic Park. And if things don't improve, there could well be some further disharmony to follow on opening day of the season against St Mirren. With Rangers out in Athens on Wednesday, they'll be licking their lips at the thought of Celtic not getting the job done. But a word of caution to the teddy bears out in Govan, that Greece may well have the better of you. Rome wasn't conquered in a day, and I doubt Athens will be either. But when it comes to the domestic season, it's all about to start again on Sunday. And with Celtic looking slightly underprepared, will Brendan Rodgers be able to deliver?
That was outstanding, mate. Outstanding. That bit the Rome wasn't born a day to see either as happens. How you do that, I will never. No, get a few comments saying there's two shows at the same time. Listen, as I say, I don't really go by anyone else's schedule. I just go live when we get a chance. I finished work, played some squash, had a wee sauna, and thought, it'll be time at 7:30, Jonathan. If there's other shows on at the same time, it's each and everyone's prerogative to watch whatever they want. It's there's no issues that way. It's certainly not anyone trying to clash with anyone, any of that nonsense. You know what I mean? Life's too short for all that. Right. I mean, obviously, the opening gambit's meant to be a bit of banter, Jonathan, but there's always an undercurrent of where you're feeling about Celtic matters as well. That's obviously coming out, and that's where you get your sort of thread from, and then you just run with it in many different ways. Rome built in a day.
Neither was
Celtic,
Athens.
neither was Athens, neither Celtic squad. It's not been built.
It's been built in a month.
It's not been built. It's certainly not been built.
Actually, you know, the last time the Celtic squad was fully full, fucking Julius Caesar was actually over invading Scotland. That's the last time we were actually fully equipped for a season, I
think you're right, and I think he would be a good shout for the next manager as well, because it's going to be something like that we need. First, I want your thoughts on where you think the manager stands on it all, because as I say, you're alluding to obviously things that are frustrating about it all. How frustrating do you think the manager is right now? Because I look at it and go, see, regardless, I think there's petty squabbling. I genuinely believe the board didn't want Brendan, right? Here's my theory on it, which I think I've kind of alluded to, or probably said before. I feel like the board didn't want Brendan in the first place. They knew Brendan couldn't kick up a stink his first summer window, so he got the 9 signings. We all know the infamous 9. Bernardo's the only survivor of that, and judging by, even once they made him permanent, his appearances last season, we'll see this year, you know, how highly even he's rated. He might have been the best of a bad bunch. 1 out of 9 ain't bad. That doesn't sound like a Meatloaf song to me. Then when it comes to the second summer window, oh, look how much we've spent. See, and look, even the fans aren't happy, and the overcritical, massive element of supporters now who judge every, and I get it, because the team's so much more in your face, and you see every minute of every game. You see highlight reels, you see low light reels, if you want to call them that, when people aren't playing well. You see so many posts that can influence and sway your decision making on what you think a player is, that they can point to all that in negative manners about, and the time they did invest. But that time they did invest was last summer, and of course they did it too late for me. They did it after pre-season, the best pre-season I'd seen Celtic have ever, better than this year's by a mile. I thought last summer's pre-season was the best I'd ever seen Celtic. We then added players such as Ida, who could have been done months before. But now they've got their excuse again. So you won't kick up the first season, Brendan. We got you what you wanted, Brendan, the second season, albeit they stabbed him in the back by doing it too late, in my opinion. He overcame that by having the best European campaign. So he can trump that argument easy peasy. I don't mean that, Trump. I mean trump cards. This summer, well, Brendan didn't sign a new deal. Therefore, because he didn't sign a new deal and he hadn't pledged his future Celtic, what were we meant to do? Invest in players that, when the manager might not be here any longer. They are going to use all this bollocks or let people come up with these judgments. It's clever. But the one continuous thing with Celtic is they never do 2 consecutive windows, let alone 2 consecutive summer windows of proper investment in the first team. They don't, no matter who the manager is. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. What they're trying to do right now is hoodwinking, thinking this is a BR problem. How frustrated do you think Brendan is? And I'll take Connor's point, because he's in the chat and he wants to discuss it. Do you think there's a chance this isn't us trying to be, create, hysterics on the bus? It's a question asked by a viewer, Connor Rowan, who's been watching the bus for a long time. Great to have you on. And he's saying, another 2 weeks, and I hope Brendan walks. Do you think there's a chance of that, Jonathan, in any way, shape or form?
I could understand the argument you could put as to why he could be frustrated and would be tempted to walk out. I can't see Brendan doing that, only because I think he's pretty much handcuffed himself to this job till the end of the end of this season, and that goes back to that first press conference he did when he came back, where he promised everyone that he would see out the 3 years. And I think after how things finished the last time around with him, where people felt he didn't keep his word as he should have done, he will be determined to make sure that he does this time around. So he's been in a bit of an awkward spot, and I think the board are actually using that a little bit to their advantage as well, because they know he's caught between a rock and a hard place. No matter what they do, if he walks, the board can then turn around and say, well, you know, first time round he done it, he walked out on his middle of the season, there he is, he's at it again, Leopard doesn't change his spots, etc., etc. You could see the narrative around it quite easily as to how that would be spun from a sort of board level viewpoint. From Brendan's point of view, of course, he must be frustrated. He has to be frustrated. I think you're seeing that come across in some of the interviews he's done, where he's talked about ambition or lack thereof from the board. And make no mistake about it, those are very calculated words from Brendan Rodgers. He's not used those words by accident. And that is him again trying to get that point across that he isn't overly impressed with what's going on. And to be fair, I think the fans haven't been impressed with what's been going on either. I think if, in this hypothetical situation, Brendan did walk, I don't think he would get as tight as he done the last time from the supporters because of what's happened over the last few windows. Don't get me wrong, there would still be plenty that would turn around and point the finger at him for leaving, again, without sticking true to his words. But I think there'd be a lot of understanding, shall we say, there amongst the Celtic fans. And it goes back to what we touched upon, the last time we were on this together. The fact is that the fans have put in so much money just over the past few months, with the season tickets, the merchandise, and everything else in between. There has been a flood of investment into this football club over the past few months. And we've got very little to show for it in terms of signings. And we are going into this season very under-equipped in certain positions in the park. There's no getting away from it. If we get a couple of injuries out wide at the moment, we're really in a no man's land. We've got very, very few options. We had Arzani, I think, was playing on fucking Saturday. I didn't even realise he was still at the club. And he could actually be on the borders of getting into the first team if something was to go horribly wrong. Because we are so badly under equipped, and that's just on the flanks that have spotted this. So there's plenty that needs to be looked at there by the board. Brendan has got a couple of weeks to try and sort this out. I fully expect, Russell, this is going to be another case that when we get to the point where the Champions League qualifiers have been and gone, we will then make a decision as to how we will then invest the monies from there. And I think there's also talk that I think with the coefficient where it is, there'll be more qualifiers to follow potentially in future seasons just because we're going to have some knockoffs with what Rangers have been up to in Europe. And I don't know, is this another case of the Celtic board saying they're putting the money away for a rainy day when they can't qualify because we've got too many qualifiers to play and we can't get through them all, and we're really struggling here to manage, and they'll pull out the old crocodile tears that it's too difficult, when ultimately they've shot themselves in the fucking foot with how poor the recruitment's been over the past number of seasons. And I'll be interested to see exactly where we go from here. And I think there is absolutely potential that Brendan's going to be frustrated. But I also think he will get a few players in. I just wonder, Russ, and I don't know if you've seen, it seems to be a lot more about loan signings, is what we're seeming to be seeing a lot more of in the rumour mill at the minute. Is that what the Celtic board, do you think, will end up pulling the trigger on? Is Brendan Rodgers going to be happy with that, if that's what it comes to? How do you see this playing out? Is it going to be some big signings that you expect to come in, or do you think we're going to go down the cheap route and do a couple of loans from England?
There's a lot to take in there. I want to just jump back a couple of points, then I'm going to answer that question as well. I do think when it comes to the board's angle, what you were saying was the rainy day aspect. Tell me what a rainy day looks like that you have not created yourself. The only answer to that would be the COVID season. Turns out Celtic had an insurance policy for that. We're one of two clubs, I think, in the UK. I think was the start of two in Scotland that got paid out. I think it was 10 million, something like that. Anyway, that certainly helped with that rainy day. Let me tell you this: any other rainy day that arrives at Celtic, why is there no responsibility for said rainy day to arrive? When you control the weather, then the rain's coming down because you've let it come down. No one can be unexpectedly seeing rain at Celtic Park if you've got the keys to the weather machine. And essentially that's what they do. I know it sounds like a silly analogy, but there's nothing that's happening right now with Celtic they shouldn't have been able to preempt, predict, and prepare for. Celtic have done none of those things. They had 3 years run at group stage Champions League football, guaranteed qualification, and find themselves in a situation now with a massive qualifier on that they're scared to stick or twist on in the transfer window, because if they don't progress through said qualifier, they know that in their mind that's money pissed down the drain. Even though I'd like to think your recruitment, your transfer strategy is so good, Celtic, that we don't need to worry about that either, because you'll make profit on all these great players that you've found for 2 million, have you not?
Yeah.
Now, the other aspect as well of this, of course, is I feel anyway, they've not realised how bad. I just don't think they treat Europe with respect. They've not realised that almost, they must have realised, but it feels like they've not realised that because of your coefficient dropping so much, you've damaged your chances, even if you do win the league, massively of getting the Champions League next year. However, your rival club, you like to keep as close as possible, well, guess what? They didn't give a shit about how we were performing in Europe. And if they were to win the league this year, due to your lack of investment again, so forget the playoff, even domestically, if your lack of investment doesn't get you over the line in the league, they go straight into that Champions League because of their individual coefficient placement.
Mm-hmm.
These are all Celtic problems. It's not a rainy day that comes that Celtic couldn't have predicted the weather. So let's have that right. Secondly, you're asking about whether I think it'll be loan signings or Brendan will get a couple of bigger ones in by the end of the campaign. See, at the end of the day, the way I look at the signings now, they are the equivalent of we may as well have a Ronnie Dyler in charge. That is the truth. And that's not because the thing is with Rodgers, all they want him to do, and they put it, and this is how they're, it's sadistic as fuck because they don't want him there, right? The Bold do not want this guy in charge. It's so obvious. Stop being silly or naive if you think Peter Lawwell's not a massive influence on that board. Non-executive chairman, no, I promise he's just there to, even they still peddle on mainstream media. I was at Clyde the other night. Roger Hanna, I think, talks a bit of sense for a Rangers fan. He was even saying, you know, he's involved in certain affairs, but not. Listen, Roger, and listen, everyone else. He's the only guy with chairman in the title of his job. He is the de facto Celtic chairman, not that a non-exec. Even Celtic call him chairman now, but he is, as chairman, trust me, still calling shots. And let's pander to your argument that he's not. Everyone else in the room were all under his watch for that long, and all appointed by him. They all follow his guidelines as how to run a football club anyway. There's no fresh thinking in there. So you can't, either way you turn, it's a Peter Lawwell production because it's either his thinking and his teachings that is the board's sort of direct path that they're following, or it's him himself. But either way, it's his footprints, or his fingerprints, I should say, footprints and fingerprints, bootprints a lot. It's them all over all of this. The loan signings, yep, it's sad to see. And I'll tell you the other aspect that I love. Stop hyping up. We've got Tisdale there. We've got David Pleat in a position situ. David Pleat probably has identified these players for loan. But David Pleat's remit will be identify some cheap loan signings, please. Right? That'll be his remit.
Yeah.
Right? And Pleat, someone I spoke of on this channel way before any other about, he was on TalkSport, I think it was about a year ago, and blew me away with how wise he was. Like, genuinely watched it going, fuck it, hell, he's sharp darts. He was pulling off dates from 40 years ago, but then talk about relevant, like, football like that. He could ring off, it was scary, the detail. You knew you're impressed by a pundit. He was so impressive. And I thought, fucking, that's a good fit for Celtic. I wonder if his remit, though, is to find these loan players for, whether it be Ronnie Dyler in charge or Brendan Rodgers, it's Celtic transfer targets. The other guy, if Tisdale's still there, who knows? They're just going, mate, they are going to transfer delegations and meetings, honestly, with half-price bags of cash on them. Third, can we get 70 yellow label players anywhere? Well, no, that's one of our best players. Go ahead, Eagles. Celtic in 2025 cannot sign like that a go-ahead Eagles key player. See if anyone thinks that's acceptable. They're off their head. This is basic what I'm talking about. These are the clubs, if this is the transfer strategy and model, what Celtic want them for is the 2010 price, the 2008 price, the price where the strategy all came into play, Jonathan. That's what they're looking for, to still be able to rely on. They've not realised, despite when they sell players, they seem very aware of how inflation works in Europe. But they think they can go to clubs like that and take the piss, not realising a guy, for example, like a Mark Overmars, ex-Arsenal, ex-Barcelona, ex-Ajax, kind of know how big football works, kind of keep my finger on the pulse, be taking the piss out of us. There's the value. Do you want to pay it? No, really. Celtic, now, looking at loan players, to me, will be the sign of things to come. This is how Celtic are going to act, because we are going back to 2015, when it's Dedrick Boyata signing for $1.5 million and you're just hoping that you'll be great. And we're going to have to build all over again. Now, see, when you look at the opportunities we've had in between in the last 10 years, don't ever tell me this is a strategy that makes sense.
It's a very strange one with some of it. When you're talking about obviously the prices in 2008 and 2010 prices. Well, forget this go-ahead Eagles player. You're actually talking 2000 prices. We're talking 25 years ago. Celtic was spending £5 million to bring in players of a quality that were going to improve
Alan
the squad.
Stubbs, $4.5 million, Jonathan, in 1996, I think it was, 95, 96.
Well, there you go.
I think he was a British
Shite,
transfer
not a great
record,
player, but £5 million.
which is amazing, because we didn't have £100 million in the tank, either of those situations.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those ones where you're looking at it and you're thinking, if we're now at a place where we're not even willing to spend £5 million when we were happy enough to spend that 25 to 30 years ago on players to try and improve the first team, but you've got an elite level manager in situ at the minute, and you're not willing to put up £5 million for a player that he, I presume, has had some input in actually identifying, or indeed at least signing off that he wants the guy. And Celtic are reportedly going in with bids of about £1 million, £1.5 million to start with. It's not even close. It's not even like you're going in at £3.5, £4 million and trying to do a bit of negotiation. You're actually just pissing the guy off.
Is there an aspect then? See, when you've just gave that example of going, look, see, we got these targets put to us by our sporting director, approved by our manager, and we made bids for them. They just didn't want to come. That's them in their mind ticking all boxes.
If it doesn't wash, if they're not putting in good enough bids, the fans will see through it somewhere along the line. I think they take it for granted.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, but I think they're taking it for granted, and they get away with taking it for granted because of how successful the club has been domestically over the past 10 years. We've talked before about how you've got a new generation of Celtic fan that has been conditioned through no fault of their own to accept that domestic bliss is what is on the menu at Celtic Park, and if we get anything in Europe, then that is just to be treated as a bonus, essentially, not to get your hopes up and really accept that we're a big underdog in European competition and we can't get anywhere in it for various different reasons, finances, ironically, being one of them, even though we've probably got one of the healthiest bank balances, I dare say, in Europe, certainly for the size of our club anyway, compared to anybody else around our level. And you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, if there's players there that have been identified and they're well within the range that we could afford to pay, then there's no excuses not for getting these done, unless, of course, the player doesn't want to come to Celtic. But if you're telling me that we can't get a deal done for a go-ahead Eagles winger, that's a club that is, massively below Celtic. The player will be desperate to come when you first make that approach and he hears about the fact he could be playing Champions League nights at Celtic Park, Celtic Rangers games, even, with the thought of winning domestic trophies. There's so many things there that we can offer this guy, yet we're not willing to offer the one thing that matters that we have an abundance of, which is actually cash. And it just seems...
But yeah, imagine this is one of our assets.
And
the first bid for Nicholas Kuhn, Jonathan, is, sorry we sell him for, let's say it was 16 million quid. First bid we get's £4.5 million.
You wouldn't even continue the negotiations.
Resolute Celtic hold off. No, Celtic will go fuck yourself. We know what he's worth. That's the truth.
Of course, anyone wants to
Celtic are
do
not
that.
practicing what they preach in terms of selling players. So this is what really irks me. It's like they fucking put a copyright symbol on it. You know, they've patented it. Patented
it.
It's like they've done that with player trading model. Fuck that. I want Celtic winning model. Oh, but we've won loads of things domestically. You've not won a knockout tie in Europe in 21 years. I want a Celtic winning model. Show me how good your player trading model is. Show me eventually your hand. Here's another question. This is where we'll go with this now. And it's about time it gets addressed. What is the reasons for Celtic to be holding this cash? Because this is unprecedented amounts of money with, as we've just articulated at the start of the show on the line, we are talking about Champions League that we've completely blown up already, really. Even if we're too scared to lose the league this year because Rangers get straight in if they win the league this year. It's not because we get straight in if we win it. It's because we're scared of Rangers getting in it. That's how much we've blown this up. 3 straight years of Champions League football, and we're back to qualifiers. So we've had all the options, we've had all the chances, all the opportunities, but the bundle had to stay. The pile of cash had to remain. Nothing jeopardizes this big fucking... It's like the Joker sliding down with his cigar in his mouth.
Mm-hmm. The money's not being banned.
So what is it there for? Because now we are at the nitty-gritty that people are only waking up to now. And to be fair, I think it took a show, it might have been the 20-minute twats, I can't remember, but I think there was a pod, one of them, that had a guy on who was basically explaining the coefficient rule. And see, when you hear it and where it all the law of the land lays for Celtic going forward in Europe, it's daunting. Now, if this board are really on top of things, someone in there recognised that 2 years ago. Yeah? And by the way, see, even skip all that, I could recognise the first year we got the guaranteed group stage, invest again. Andrew's on the high. Andrew, at the end of the day, whether he's my favourite manager or not, is not part of this question. Andrew was the people's, I don't mean the people, I mean, he was the fans' choice to be Celtic manager. You fucking back him again. You go in Europe again if you really believe in it. Then we get the best option Celtic possibly could have got, and that was the guy who killed Scottish football when he was here. Every trophy available he won. The other trophies, he laid in as good a path as he possibly could for Lenny, who's still trying to drive it, but that's another story. This guy was the elite option. Celtic still didn't want to pull the trigger and back him to the tilt. So tell me what the reason is. We have to continually, and by the way, this isn't a pile that's sitting stagnant, Jonathan. It's not just sitting there going, no interest. Oh no, we're adding Jeremy Frimpong vibes to it. We're adding Nicholas Kuhn vibes to it. We're adding, from what I'm hearing from the Croatia international websites. I'm only joking. I don't read them because I don't give a fuck with your Croatia international. But even Juranovic, there might be even more transfer money coming in from him. Eh? What are Celtic's plans with this? We are literally sitting on an ever-growing pile of money, scared to spend the profits of it, let alone the beef of it, the meat and the bones of it, but yet watching our revenue potentials dwindle away, get further and further away, and get harder and harder to achieve. See if anyone tells me again, this is a board who've been brilliant for Celtic, they're off their fucking heads.
It's a very interesting point with the board, and I think we're going to find out just how much we are about to regress as a club, I fear, when we get to the end of this season and we're back in a manager hunt for a new manager, because I would...
Of course, what, this season?
when we get to the end of this season, when Brendan
Oh,
goes,
yeah,
which I
he's
think,
definitely going. Of course he's going.
yeah, I think me and you are both in agreement on that Rodgers will see the contract out, he'll leave next summer, and then you'll really see just how little ambition this board have, because I guarantee the successor, unless things change at boardroom level between now and then, which I think is almost impossible, then his successor is going to be a serious downgrade on what we have just now. It will be like going back in for somebody like a Neil Lennon, probably somebody unproven like Lenny was the first time around. It would not surprise me in the slightest if it ended up being somebody like a Scott Brown or something like that. If he was to do really well at Ayr, for example, this season and get them promoted, that he would be in the conversation to take on that job. And that is exactly what the board will look for, is somebody that can, bring a bit of passion or heart to the Celtic fans and kind of be one of those guys that is a bit of a, more of a badge kisser type, and has that
But this is the
ability
fear. Have they overplayed it one more season? Now, Brendan's invincibility sheet, remember, he's invincibility, not invisibility, Harry Potter fans. His invincibility cloak, we've seen, is gone. No League Cup season 1. No Scottish Cup season 2. Now, you know what the hat trick makes, right? Then, do you honestly think Desmond allows them to then get their puppy dog in? But the point of the matter is, if that's the case, why not just back the guy in charge?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, that's the most obvious. It's the most obvious thing to look at. But there's somebody at Celtic that wants to play Championship manager and always has done. And that, for me, has got to be Peter Lawwell. That's always the guy that seems to be thinking he seems to know what a player is actually worth more than the actual football people. It's the football people that need to make these calls. I highly doubt whoever scouted this guy from Go Ahead Eagles has turned around and said, yeah, no, he's only worth £1.5 million. Didn't he go above that for him? Brendan might want him, but he's only a £1.5 million player. If they ask for any more, they're completely out of order. Of course, nobody fucking said that. Just be absolutely ridiculous. And this is where we're at. We're at a situation now where we have, and we have had for many years, a board that seem to want to make a lot of football decisions and take that away from the football department. Their job is to really give the manager a budget. It's actually very simple. It's actually like playing Football Manager. How it usually works is the manager gets a budget, there's usually a scouting department, scouts go out, do their job, head of recruitment comes back with targets, manager approves them. If they're within the budget remit, you go ahead and you try and make the deal happen. Whereas it seems like we're in some sort of warped way of working with this, where there must be some sort of budget that Brendan knows he has, but then it varies depending on who he wants to buy. The guys that are actually holding the purse strings have then decided, actually, we're also going to be the chief scouts on this. We're also going to be the manager on this and approve this as well, before we actually then decide we're going to spend £4 or £5 million on this. They want to play every hat in the role. It's like, what on earth is going on with that side of things?
You've just smashed it. They want to play every character of every role. That is exactly it. I think when you hear the stories from the Legia Warsaw, I think it was either sporting director or chairman, and he said Celtic act oddly when it comes to transfers. You hear the story from Celtic, I can never remember his name, the Slovan Bratislava striker. He was told by Celtic he was signing. He was given a contract by Celtic. They're being up to date with how it works. Oh, yeah, here's what you'll get when you join us. Celtic then lowball the offer, thinking he'll create enough rift at his club that will get him for that. The club don't blink. Celtic are left behind. He doesn't sign. You're almost ruining players' careers. Celtic are not good at this. You employ people in life to do the jobs they are suited to do, paid handsomely to do, and then respected as well as backed to then provide results on. Celtic don't allow that final bit.
It's lack of trust, isn't it? At times it feels like there's a lack of trust there, as if they don't trust the footballing decisions. And it goes back to, you've got that time with the famous story with Martin O'Neill and Dermot Desmond with the Chris Sutton deal, where he gets questioned on signing Sutty for £6 million, and Martin O'Neill just goes back and says, "Who's the actual manager here?" And they go ahead and they authorise the move. But who is in charge here? Because it certainly doesn't feel like Brendan's got that same level of power that O'Neill does to actually
This
challenge the
is what
board
I
if they're
love.
not
And
offering the
this is the
money.
debate. This is the debate I love. Because everyone says, well, football's moved on now. It's now just a head coach. Is it? Great. Have the board moved on during that time?
No, they're all still there.
No, wait. So they're still doing the same downsizing as and when it suits them throughout a manager's, but they've now got this go-to thing where a manager's actually called a head coach now, guys. You're going, yeah, but you were doing this before the likes of Strachan. Guess who you didn't do it with? Neil Lennon. Why? Because we'd lost the league the year before. We had Mowbray sacked mid-season. Neil Lennon got a hell of a lot of players in of his own accord and was allowed to speak to players that Celtic would never endorse now, like David James, Sol Campbell, Jimmy Bullard, right? Because you know why? They were shitting themselves. That's why they did that. Reactive. Tells you that they could afford it. You don't let Jimmy Bullard come up to talk about 40 grand a week contracts if we're just going to pull the plug on it. No. So you're letting us know you could afford it. When was the next time you seen it happen? Ange Postecoglou. Now, don't get me wrong. It was a fucking win-win, wasn't it? Hey, look how sound we are. We let the managers have carte blanche. We always have. Really, Ange's targets were so affordable that we're going, oh, this is the fucking money right here. Ange says they're shit hot. Yeah, you heard the Ange till 2 weeks ago, but I can go for Ange and get his targets in. Why? Well, we've only got 12 first team players and we lost the league by an absolute fucking landslide last year. Since then, when's it happened?
It doesn't tend to happen very often. I think it's an interesting one with Ange because I think they were onto a winner there from the board's point of view anyway, because they couldn't really lose with Postecoglou. They backed him, and as you say, the players were so cheap, it was an easy win for the board. And if it didn't work, whose fault was it? Ange Postecoglou's, because they were Ange Postecoglou's players that he'd identified. So even if he had lost the league that season, the board could have just turned around and said, well, we gave him what he wanted. He'd identified these players. We had nothing to do with this. We just gave him the money, and he chose to spend it that way. But when it comes to now, when we're looking at Brendan Rodgers, they can't turn around and say that if they were to be unsuccessful this season, unless something changes drastically in the next couple of weeks. They cannot honestly say, hand on heart, well, we gave Brendan the money. We gave him the pot, and he never got a chance, and he didn't spend it very well. They've not given him the pot. They've just given him what they think a player's worth because they want to take on many different roles. And it goes back to that point of being a reactive board, because you've mentioned obviously Lennon as well. I mean, there's two other big moments that I can always recall where Celtic have been reactive, and it's two loan signings. You've got Martin O'Neill's last season when they decided to replace Henrik Larsson with Henri Camara.
So they brought Bellamy in January. Yep.
Yeah, they made a total fuck up with Henri Camara. Reactive board, they bring in Craig Bellamy and should have won the league that season. Bellamy almost turned that all around for us in the second half. And then the other one was Robbie Keane. When, again, we had an absolute horrendous, stinking start to that season. Dermot Desmond steps in, brings in Robbie Keane. Okay, that one didn't quite work out.
When did they bring in Robbie Keane?
It was the last day of the January transfer window.
Oh, not the first. Not the first day of the window. Funny that, because those 4 weeks, you think there's could have been a difference then as well,
Well, they would have played Rangers, funnily enough, right at the start of January. If you had them in on the first day of January, you've got a chance to play them. And I think that game may have been at Celtic Park. I think from memory it would have been. And that might have been a difference maker. We might have won that game.
Fortuny.
No, that was the game with Lennon where we drew. I think we drew.
No, we won under Lenny. Lenny won all his league games.
Oh yeah, we beat them. Fortuny scored that game there.
I was at the game when
he scored in that game. I won that one 2-1, didn't we?
Lee Miller as well.
I think it was a draw. I think it was a 1-1 draw. I think the first one.
Not under Lenny though.
No, that was under Mowbray. I don't think Robbie Keane was. I don't think Robbie Keane was in the building. I think that was at the start of January.
Everything's reactive, and they're great examples that you give. Now, right in the meantime, though, when we're ahead, it's like, right, well, just fucking listen to us. We're the guys. We know what we're doing. You fucking don't, idiots. Go buy another third shirt. In fact, there's the new coaching gear out. Go get that. And if you're not happy with that, we wish we still could sell DVDs. But instead, we're going to make it pay access only to see the training stuff on our website. Even though with that, you can't really watch anything else that's really good exclusive content. They've still not adapted their app to actually being really enticing for fans. I swear I would pay a £5 a month for Celtic app if it was like the old WWE app.
Yeah,
Remember the
Netflix
WWE
now.
Network?
Yeah.
And you could just go season by season and it would have all the best highlights or the full match if they had it, which they will for the majority of the last 20 years. Full match. I would like the highlights one, the highlights reel, and then all the DVDs combined, all in this one app. See, stuff like that. It's so basic, by the way, to organize. So simple. They own the rights to it all. Get on with it. They don't do these things, but they still want you to pay extra just to see, like, Kieran Tierney getting an extra 3 minutes on an interview that they'll put on YouTube 3 days or a day later anyway. Fuck off. This, all we're seeing right now is a club hoovering in all and sundry around them in terms of cash, the Celtic fans. They know the rainy day's coming. Because like I said at the start of this show, they are the ones in charge of the weather. But as that rainy day approaches, what they want is the hero status again. Here's the biggest thing. Now, that's when, by the way, we balance the books again and we still turn over profit the next accounts, even though we didn't make Champions League. What other club could do that? Here's the other thing they're going to do. We don't make Champions League, we sell Daiza Maeda or we sell Rio Latati.
I think there's a possibility something like that could very well happen.
See, if we qualify for Champions League and we sell one of them, I can take it. Because if we qualify for Champions League, if you were a progressive club, that means there's going to be X, Y, Z coming in. If it's 3-6 million signings and we sell Latati, I understand. It's this amazing player trade. But I think what they'll do is they will sell if we don't get the Champions League money, just to balance that champion or offset, should I say, what those ends have been. And Marcus O'Hara has been in the live chat arguing and debating, which is great, by the way, because that's what it's all about in the bus, Marcus. So take no offense to the fact I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm all for all opinions and all angles on the bus. So please don't take any of this personally. But see that as a sentence, and I've seen the debate you've been having. Go just read it out to yourself, Marcus, and say, sit yourself in that board and honestly say that's how a progressive company of any sorts, Marcus, work. Of any enterprise, any industry, any type, any kind, a sole trader even saying it to himself. Marcus says it's not perfect, but it could be worse. This is on the back of other defences. But see, if you surmise it as that, and that's your summary, Marcus, in one sentence, it's not perfect, but it could be worse. What sort of ambition does that show? What sort of success does that show? What sort of actual round of applause does any board of any company in any industry ever get for nonsense like it's not perfect, but it could be worse? That has destroyed all your other arguments, because I think that says it all, my friend.
Yeah, it's probably similar to what the board potentially, dare I say, would say to Brendan in private conversations when he's going around, be like, for fuck's sake, I wanted some players, and as a line I could imagine something like Peter Lawwell saying, well, I was like, well, I got you some good players in. I don't think it's all bad. You know, you've got Kieran Tierney. I don't know what else you want. I got you the Swedish boy in. You know, you've got a few players there. You know, you've still got most of your squad from last season. It might be better, could be worse. Whereas what you really want is an ambitious board, and it goes back to what Brendan was saying, is where is this ambition from this board? The problem they've got is there's too many of them that have been there for too long. You know, as we were touching upon earlier, we're actually almost back in a situation with the Kellys and the Whites with how long we've actually had some of these players here for, some of these sort of people on the board here for. And it's just getting to a place now where I think you need fresh blood up there, and I think we've needed fresh blood in there for a long time. somebody who understands how modern football works, somebody who's willing to adapt to the
Just
actual
basics.
situations. And you need that in any line of business. You won't see many boards, of successful companies that have had the same bunch of directors on it for the past 20 odd years. It just doesn't happen in successful business models very often. Generally speaking, to stay ahead of the curve, you need to have fresh ideas going in at boardroom level so you can keep your either your product as innovative as possible, or indeed in a football context, coming up with new ways to try and not just increase your revenue, but also improve as a club and get better as a club. There's limits on what you can actually do domestically, and Brendan Rodgers has probably hamstrung himself in some ways with how successful he was the first time around. Him coming back was really a lose-lose for Brendan on a personal level in terms of success. There was only one way he could go when it came to domestic football, and that was down. It was either down or he stayed exactly as he
Yep.
was. Trebles became expected under Brendan Rodgers. He's probably the only manager who's came into Celtic on the second spell now and was expected to be winning trebles every season because of the bar that he set the first time around. Whereas that was never going to be achievable every season. It just takes one off day in the cup and you're out, as we've seen in the last couple of seasons. But Brendan Rodgers is not immune to that either. But he's came back because he ultimately wanted to make progress in Europe. So that's the only thing he had to prove by coming back, by the way. That and keeping his promises. But if we're talking purely on a football standpoint, all he had to really prove by coming back to Celtic was showing that he could be successful in Europe. And so far, I would say he's done very well last season.
If the window is a Brendan window, which I think it is, even though they gave it to him as late as possible to try and scupper it.
Yeah, I think it was a Rodgers window last season, and I think Rodgers got outstanding performances in most of the games at the Champions League level. Outside of Dortmund away, I think he had some very credible results and some very good performances in there as well, even in games that we didn't necessarily come away with anything from. However, if we then go into this season and we end up in a situation where either we don't qualify for the Champions League, which would be an absolute disaster, but it's very possible given the lack of activity that's happened with the transfer window, or you end up in a situation where you manage to get through the qualifier, but then the group stage could end up becoming a bit of a whipping ground because, again, if we get in and we still don't get the players in, because bear in mind, by the time you've played these Champions League qualifiers, even in best case scenario where we do qualify for the Champions League, you've then only got around about a week to get deals done. If that's what we're going with, that they're waiting to find out where they're going to fall in terms of European competition before buying, they're right up against the clock, and the clubs will then just charge a premium that you're actually looking for because they know you've got the Champions League money. They know you're fucked if you don't sign any of these players, and you're just going to get absolutely scalped by all of Europe's best teams. And you're not hiding to nothing. And you've then got to pay actually more money for players that you could have identified and brought in earlier in the window. And it just seems baffling to me that we end up in this situation almost every season, particularly when there's qualifiers due, that we don't seem to learn that, actually, if we did our business a bit earlier, not only are we giving ourselves the best chance of qualifying for the Champions League, but we're also probably helping the finance men at Celtic by saving them some money in terms of how much we're having to outlay on players as well, because you get them cheaper at the start of a window. I just feel like there's just something that's not quite right.
Back him. Yeah, they don't want to back him, mate. They don't want to back him. Just before we round things off, Sonny Boy, did anyone read that piece from CQN the other day? Show the both his plants in the podcast world. I think, Sonny Boy, what I'm going to do is dissect that on a solo show tomorrow. What day is tomorrow? Wednesday. Yeah, I'm going to just go through that blog. I'm going to put it in print on the screen. It'll be that side where Jonathan is. There'll be the print of that blog, and we'll just go through it together as a fan base on the bus. We'll do that tomorrow night, and we'll just analyze it, and we'll look at it from that angle, whether it's plants in the podcast world or it's plants in the board, or whether it's tidbits from the board that make them be like this. I think that'd be a good show, because I've just kind of had a wee flick over it there while you were while Jonathan was talking, and yeah, I think there'll be plenty to chew over on that shite, because it is utterly political party broadcasting from the CQN, which shouldn't surprise anyone, by the way. These guys got all the kudos. That's cool. Means nothing to me. I've got a job. Jonathan's got a job. We've got that ability in life and that freedom to come on here and just talk our truth. We don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Which is a good thing. Trust me. There's plenty out there who will, toe certain lines, even just to get on with our podcasts and all that bollocks, let alone getting on with the club. That's like that's the real gravy train for a lot. Well, if folk will not do anything to upset, maybe subscriber numbers might go a wee bit stale, because they might upset people. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I would rather we had a debate that tells the truth. And I'm gonna go through that CQN bog, Sonny boy. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's about time we start maybe analysing some of this shit on our fan channel, and start analysing our own media, and start going through that, and start having a look at what is this game here that we're watching. Because a lot of it is absolute bollocks. Right, Jonathan, AJSC is putting a few good points, and I feel like I've not brought them up tonight, so I apologise, AJSC. I've actually starred them. So we're going to finish off on these. He says, the board are taking a stance. Rodgers, that 26 million that we signed must get the job done in the qualifier before we sign bigger checks. It's a great angle that they would use for that. You're absolutely spot on, mate. My big fear is the Europa League. Why? Because that blows up our SPFL scheduling advantage over Rangers. Jonathan, I want your thoughts on that. That one I hadn't even considered. It's massive how much, whilst we laugh at their inability domestically, and we marvel at ours, there's got to be a slight feature of why they've been so poor. Has got to be they're used to Thursday nights. We can slag it off at the time. I still will now, when you've got the opportunity to. It's their fault they've been playing on Thursday nights, no one else's. If we drop down to that, well, the same applies. But our fault we're playing on Thursdays. And I do think it'll make that Saturday, well, you wouldn't be playing Saturday, but that Sunday 12 o'clock fixture just a wee bit trickier if you've been away in Croatia, for example, or Bosnia on the Thursday night playing. Suddenly these domestic trips could be a bit trickier. I think it's a great angle that AJSC Tech has took on that one.
Yeah, I think it's always one of those ones where you're also potentially playing catch up as well, because even if you're playing on the Sunday, and Rangers are also playing Thursday, Rangers could be the early game and you could be the later one, meaning there is potential there that if you're in a tight title race, that your rivals have the opportunity to get the points on the board ahead of you. And it's a big difference. Thursday, Sundays, I always feel you get better atmospheres in the stadiums as well. On a Saturday, Celtic Park is definitely a better place to be playing football. On a Saturday, I always feel than a Sunday. I always kind of feel that Sunday there's always a bit more of a hangover when you've been in Europe, a lot more than if you've done a Tuesday or a Wednesday night into a Saturday. But when you've done a Thursday, Sunday, then it becomes a lot more of almost a drag. You almost can kind of feel it even in the atmosphere and in the ground, that people are just like, oh, this is not really the time that I'm wanting to be at the football as much. I'd far rather be at Celtic Park on a Saturday at 3 o'clock than a Sunday at 2 or whatever time they end up putting you on at. And it's an interesting one when you're looking at Sunday football. And I guess on a slightly separate point, I have seen we're on Sunday this weekend. Actually, we're going to be on last outside of Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen on Monday night. It's a bit of an interesting one, that, Russell.
Yeah, I always think Aberdeen will be back in the title race again, the first 10 games again. They're a mad one as well, because we laughed at them at the start. Well, we didn't laugh. If I actually said fair play to them with the wins they'd got, but then you laughed how much they fell off a cliff. But see, when you looked at them, if you'd been told get us a 4th place finish, a Scottish Cup, and I think he was in the League Cup semis, is that right?
Yeah, we beat them in the League Cup semis.
I think he's had a good year. But yeah, anyway, that's another point.
I think it's interesting though that we are Sunday 4 o'clock and not Saturday early kickoff.
You are a product of the environment you sign up for in football. Right? There's two big things in football: money and gossip. The money in Scottish football is Sky. The gospel be it's a conspiracy that Celtic didn't get to play first game as title. Celtic signed for this deal with Sky. Signed it. You reap what you sow. Do I think the Sky deal was the best deal? I've banged that drum many a time. It's the only deal. I'm not saying it's the greatest deal in the world. It's the only deal. The only deal worth taking was the Sky one. You made your bed, you better lie in it, as Paul Weller once sang. It's simple as that. I think it's right. Who cares? It's not on absolute anyone in Sky to appeal to. What's tradition here? Sky go what we think will be best for our broadcasting. There's no Super Sunday as of yet. So we're, in their mind, our premium slot of English Premiership football is Sunday at 4. And we're giving it to a Scottish team because the Premier League's not started yet. What more do you want from us? So, you've not thought of it that way, had you?
Well, no, I do know it's
you
because
well,
of Sky.
Russell, me, right now. Right, come on. But 4 o'clock Sunday is where their peak game, and they've got the...
Yeah, I get that. Obviously, the English football season has not started yet, so I get why Sky will be demanding that game goes.
How much more could be back Scottish football, guys? That's what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, they could have put any of the games on at that time to play devil's advocate.
We're putting on the biggest team in Scotland. We're saying we treat this 4 o'clock slot with such respect. The Super Sunday slot is the most iconic Sky Sports slot in football, and we're putting Celtic on there at home, showcasing your stadium, showcasing your team, and people have an issue. I get it.
Yeah, I get it from Sky point of view. I don't think it's necessarily the best thing for fans, particularly ones that are going to be attending the game, especially for those that come over from Ireland, etc. I think there is definitely a bit more thought that could have went into it. But I totally take your point that Sky will be the ones that will ultimately tell everybody else where they want the games to go. And when you're taking the money from Sky, you have to be willing, in some degree, to.
Why do you think we view Sunday at 4 o'clock as a dismal time to play football when literally the elite clubs in England are neighbouring country? I know there's a lot of comparisons you can't make with that financially, but in terms of how they broadcast, right, which is kind of how they ballooned into the massive juggernaut of all league football that around the world, they are the premier competition. When you're getting slots that they used as their formula, are we kind of being left behind? Are we being a wee bit fucking... What's the problem? 4 o'clock on a Sunday, you're talking about it could be Arsenal, Man U. Man U fans go to London and back.
Yeah.
What is the... Oh, I've got to travel 30 minutes for Celtic Park. Like, you can't have it both ways. I say we're bigger than all these clubs, but we don't actually want to travel that much to do it. Sunday, 4 o'clock, Sky Sports, I think is as big a gig as you get. Grab it, take it, and by the way, you already have because you banked the money, so fuck it. Get on with it.
You're stuck with it whether you like it or not, really. I guess is the point of it. I'm a bit more of a traditionalist at heart. I do quite like the champions opening the league season. That's maybe just me.
Is that what's been disregarded? Is the champion should have opened it? Which I do take that point, and I think that's the one that's been missed. But for the greater good, Sky would say, "Well, come on, guys, do you want us to do another early renewal? Maybe there could be another early renewal, which Celtic included, grabbed, unlike what they did when it was Satanta and Sky, when they should have fucking grabbed Sky then. They're all shitting themselves now, so they take anything Sky offers." I get it for both sides, to be honest with you.
I suppose that's not going to change. And obviously they've got all that. As I say, they've got it's 4 games they might have on over the whole weekend. I think they've got 2 on Sunday. Aberdeen game Monday night. Rangers are on Saturday night, so they have filled all their slots so they would normally have the English games on. So I do take that point if you're looking at it purely from what they would normally have in their English schedule. They would normally have a Saturday night game, 2 games on a Sunday, and then a Monday night game, and they've done that exact thing for the Scottish game because obviously the Premiership hasn't started yet. So there is obviously from Sky's point of view that can be looked at as an opportunity there to market Scottish football, and that's how they'll sell it. As that's an opportunity there for people in England that potentially don't watch the league to have opportunities to then become more invested in the product. Whether it plays out that way, perhaps if Celtic had made a few more signings, it might have been fucking a bit better for us on the Sunday afternoon to get a bit more interest in it. But we'll see how it goes. It's one of those ones
First
where
team's still strong, isn't it? I mean, let's be real. I mean, domestic wise, I mean, the first team we should have a better version, as I was saying the other night on my own when I was flying solo. I was saying, you expect a better version of the likes of Trusty next year. Expect a better version of Ida this year. And they didn't have dismal seasons last year. One got 20 goals, one started the majority of games at left centre half. It was unbelievable with the Atlanta draw, to be honest with you. I expect these guys to kick on as well. And I do think there's a lot of, KT's an upgrade at left back. Negron's just an exciting signing, full stop. I think the winger area, of course, we just don't care about addressing things in a orderly fashion, but unless it's selling wise. But I'm still confident that Celtic could put in a good display. Just don't let it dampen or let it bring a wee curtain down on your eyes. Keep your eyes on that board.
You think the Green Brigade might have something to say? If there's no signings?
Done. I think the Green Brigade will 100% of a banner. But where do these banners get you? Nowhere. Sadly, Mark to the point about, the only times you'll see them change is if they get carried out in a box. Not because he's angling for people to pass away. That wasn't his point. He said it sounds grim. He says, I think it's the only way that you'll ever see change. Nothing will change these people. They'll cling on to this power forever. Forever. It's unheard of. We're going to leave it there. But I just want to echo Ian's point there. Marcus, yes, there's been a lot of disagreement with me in the chat today, but you know what? You're in a safe space on the bus. I like disagreements. I like different points of view. Let's not get snide with Marcus and Marcus not vice versa to anyone else. I think it's great to see healthy debate. So as Ian McIntosh says, keep saying your opinion. Disagreement is actually healthy. We all echo that, Jonathan, do we not, on this bus?
Sure do. Actually, I fucking disagree with everything you've just fucking said there.
Well, there's no change there. I remember saying Happy Christmas to you on Christmas Day, and you said, wrong. But anyway.
Yeah, I fucking was. It was fucking Boxing Day.
Yeah, I know. I was hungover on Christmas Day. Listen, everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. It's been over 160 live. And I hope people have enjoyed the debate in the live chat, as well as you enjoyed listening to me and Jonathan have a good wee chinwag as well at the same time. Listen, remember as well, on the YouTube channel, you can post on there. If you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. And remember as well, if you like to catch up with the wee best bits, there'll be a couple of clips from this episode going on our TikTok, the .Bhoycie with the H, .bus on TikTok as well. So get subscribing on there or following or whatever the fuck it is. And we might get to a point where we start going live on there as well. There could be other types of content coming. Could Championship Management could come back? Who knows? Jonathan, anything can happen on the bus.
Yes, TikTok, who knows?
Right. Anyway, we're getting the fuck out of here. Have a great night.